Oh,
Okay,
we're live now.
We're live. Am I on there?
Yes, you're on there.
I see you.
I can see myself.
I can see you. I'm looking at your page. I can see you.
I can see you, Eddie.
I know, but I need to be able to see myself to know what I'm pointing the camera at.
Do you want me to come and show you?
Ah, I can see myself now. All right. Well, we're live.
There we are.
Hi, everyone who's tuned in. This is Mark and Adi Amateur Hour. And, we don't know what we're doing. I definitely don't know what I'm doing. But here we are. I'm in the UK, and Mark is in Atlanta. Hi, Mark.
Hey, everybody.
I mean,
go ahead, Eddie. Sorry. I was going to
say it's pretty incredible. You know, I know that the situation is pretty weird, but it's pretty incredible to be able to do this halfway across the world, and you know, two of us talk, and then people all over the world to watch. It's not bad.
No, not at all. I mean, thank God the pandemic happened in the age of the internet, right? Instead of, you know, in the 80s when we all would have been like basically hunkered down in bunkers. But yeah, this is really cool. We started about 10 minutes early so we could give people a chance to join before we kind of get down to it.
Test it out.
You exit out?
He's testing it.
No, test it out.
Leandro Santos says no more glasses for Adi.
No, I had laser surgery last November, so no more glasses.
Yeah. Hey, Diego from Italy.
We've got Italy. We got Mexico. Johan's in South Africa.
We've got David Igo. Hi, David.
Hey, David.
I owe David a text. He sent me a text a while ago, and I haven't replied back to him. I'm sure it's par for the course for me, but I'm sure he's probably wondering where I'm at.
We got lots of Tool fans on here too.
Hi, Alberto.
There's Martin. Tony in South Carolina. Denmark.
Australia. Brad from Australia. Wow, Denmark. This is awesome.
Canada.
Addy was showing off his tatas.
Well, no, the tool shirt.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, wait, are you wearing a Tool shirt?
Yes.
I didn't realize you were. Yeah, this was just the cleanest shirt on top of the laundry pile. So.
So yeah, we're gonna sit here for about an hour now in silence.
Yeah.
So,
Mark,
what are you working on?
I'm working on the same thing I was live working on earlier this week. I'm working on the X-Men Fantastic Four, the last cover, which I finished Psylocke, and I finished Reed Richards, and now I'm working on Jean Grey. So, and once we get working, I'll actually angle the camera down so you can see a little better what I'm doing.
Hi, Pat Loika.
What are you working on, Addie? Can you talk about what you're working on?
No, I'm.
You're under contract.
Well, I'm doing two things at the moment that I can't talk about or show or mention or anything. So I'm gonna just be drawing something random while we're doing this.
Can you say who you're working for?
Well, I'm doing Marvel Studios stuff, and then I'm doing a cover for Marvel, but I can't mention either one.
Can't say what. But Marvel Studios normally entails movie and television, right? Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of, you know, similar type of stuff that I did before for Marvel Studios. So it's you know, designs and concept art and stuff for you know, their projects, and they have a lot of projects in the pipeline, and I'm working on a couple of them. So you know, I it's one of those things. I don't know how much I can mention, so I'm just gonna not mention anything because
right.
You know,
yeah,
I don't know where.
Probably your safest bet.
Yeah, I don't know where the line needs to be drawn, so I will just draw it at like the safest level, which is bottom.
Yeah.
I think it's safe to say though that what you're working on is really cool.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's super cool. It's amazingly cool. Yeah, I mean, and the cover I'm doing for Marvel as well, I'm finishing today, is also really, really cool and really, really unusual. But again, Marvel need to announce it first before I can say anything about it.
Of course.
Oh.
Alrighty, so we'll leave that out of the conversation. So maybe we could talk about some of the other stuff. What have you worked on recently that you can talk about?
God. I don't know. I mean, I've been working for Marvel Studios for the past 2 months, so it's going back. I mean, I did a Conan cover that hasn't been shown yet, and I finished it a long time ago, but it hasn't been shown yet. And I keep like checking every week because I really, really like it, and I want to show it, but I haven't seen it yet, so I don't know when it will be shown. But other than that, I think everything I've done has been seen that I can actually show or talk about.
Yeah. So I guess the most recent thing you worked on that you can talk about is you did the Tool posters.
Yeah, I mean, the Tool posters for the. Yeah, I mean, it was for Nashville, and then they used the Knowing and the Evolved posters, which are kind of like versions of the same thing I did for Brooklyn. They used that for a couple of other shows, and they used it for a couple of shows in Australia as well. But that's not really like recent. I guess the Nashville poster is probably the most recent.
Yeah. Yeah, I would think that was the. That's not the Knowing. What did you call that one? She's
Oh, the Deceiver.
The Deceiver. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's my favorite one you've done so far.
Yeah, some people really like it. Some people don't care for it. It's kind of just one of those things. It's an interesting one because some people really, really love it. It's kind of like the Tempest piece I did. A lot of people loved it, and then other people kind of like, while then the Knowing and the Evolved people generally seem to really, really like. So it's, you never know.
Now, weren't you saying that that whenever you draw like a male character, that people have a tendency to everyone tends to like it, but when you draw a female character, it becomes kind of polarizing. Weren't you saying something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe because a lot of the Tool fan base are more kind of metal fans, and they're maybe more used to kind of the dark, creepy stuff. So when you do something that is a bit more towards like feminine or beautiful, maybe they don't kind of like recognize the things that they're used to in it. So it seems like a lot of women have responded really, really strongly to that, because suddenly it's supposed to always be scary skulls and devils and stuff like that. Suddenly it's something a bit more feminine, and a lot of women seem to really, really respond very strongly to that. So both the Tempest piece and the Deceiver have been really well received by women.
It's funny how that works. I did find that because I wasn't aware of this until I started working on posters for Tool, but I didn't realize that it almost seems like when it comes to Tool fans that there are factions. That there's almost kind of more like your spiritual fan, and then there's some fans that are really into like the more metal aspect to it. And I mean, it's all big one family, obviously, but it definitely seems like Tool is one of those bands that has a fan base that takes different things from the band, or from the music.
I mean, I think just, because I've been a huge Tool fan for whatever, I think I discovered them in 95. And I've met a lot of people over the years who are fans because it's such a unique band. I think it attracts people from many different kind of areas of fandom. So I think that's why you're getting there are people who are really into their more kind of proggy elements. There are people who are really a lot more into their angry elements. There are people, who read so far into it, who are really religious about, especially like the Lateralis album, where people really were reading so far into the meaning of everything, and then there are people who just kind of were like, oh yeah, rock on kind of thing. So,
Your broadcast was expired according to my thing.
oh, hold on.
Is it working for everybody else?
Yeah.
Yeah, we see it.
Yeah.
I can't log into it anymore. It just says it took me out of it and it says your broadcast has expired.
Sorry, where are you logging in?
Well, not logging in, just on your Facebook page. It's telling me it expired. So I can't see it. Anyway.
Can you refresh the Facebook page, Tamsin?
I did, but
Yeah, because I can still see it.
now it's come back again. Sorry, guys. Sorry.
We see we got some questions coming in. We probably should introduce Lisa and Tamsin. Tamsin is if you can imagine where Addie's sitting right now. Tamsin is literally sitting right below him. He's in a studio loft in one large room, and Tamsin's in a living room right below him, right past his head there below that stairwell. So you want to say hi, Tamsin?
Hi, everybody.
And I think Tamsin's trying to get back into the chat right now. And then Lisa is right here next to me. You want to say hi, Lisa?
Hello.
Hi, Lisa.
I saw some questions. You want to ask some questions?
Yeah, there was a lot of questions about Tool. I saw a question way earlier, and I can't remember who asked it, but they were saying that you and Addie should do some sort of a collaboration piece. And you guys have talked about doing connecting covers or something.
Yeah, we were actually supposed to for New York Comic Con last year. We got contacted by Marvel to do connecting X-Men covers. That we got as far as the layout stage with it, and by the time it was just we had started the project so late that it ended up not being able to come to fruition. So hopefully that's something that him and I get to do. I'd still love to do that. I assume you would too, Addie.
Yeah, I mean, I was really sad. I thought that the layouts we did were really cool, and I think it would have been really fun.
Oh, it definitely would have. Yeah,
we actually did quite a lot of work on it. The layouts were very highly finished. So
yeah. I mean, I think we were ready to go, but I think by the time the approval process was just taking too long, that it would have. I think by the time we finally got everything approved, Addie and I would have only had a day or two to actually finish the covers, and there just wasn't time to do it.
Someone asked as well, who chooses which cities your posters for Tool end up being used in?
Who chooses?
Yeah.
I mean, Tool choose. Sorry, I don't know if everybody heard that, but the question was, who chooses which cities the Tool posters end up being for? I mean, from my experience, it's a bit of a kind of there's no set kind of way for it, because a lot of the shows that I was going to, Adam the short answer is Adam decides basically, but Adam has chosen to use it for the shows that we were going to be at. But otherwise, I think it just kind of comes down to either what's ready to go, or because there just isn't a real set mechanism for it. But overall, I think it's just a decision between Adam and the management.
They were good about letting us request cities, but we weren't. We were told that we could ask for a city, but we wouldn't be guaranteed to get that city. So yeah, because like Addie said, it was just kind of based on what was available, what was ready, and all that stuff.
Also, they're trying to make it so that if you're going to be there, you can sign your posters. Obviously, that's great if that kind of works out that way. But it's not guaranteed.
Yeah, absolutely. Luckily, when the second leg of their tour, they came through Atlanta, and I really wanted my poster to be the Atlanta poster, since it was my hometown, and luckily that was able to work out that way. And then of course Addie got Nashville. Was it the next night, Addie? Yeah. So our posters got to be back to back on the second leg of the tour, which was really cool.
Well, and it worked out really great for the Nashville fans, right? Because then Addie was able to sign all the posters while they were in Atlanta.
That's
that was
true.
really cool.
Yeah, that was really neat. So the Nashville fans got a little bonus with their signed posters, and I think you sketched on some of them too, right, Eddie?
I did, yeah. Adam and I did.
Just to answer a question you're getting asked a lot, not just on here, but in general, but guys, remarks for tool posters. When do you plan on doing more?
Oh, God.
If you do, when do you plan on doing them?
Should I answer on my end?
Yes.
I mean, I only do remarks on posters I own. So the posters that Tool sent me as part of my agreement with them, those are the only ones that I do remarks on. And I owe a few of it at the moment just because I with this movie stuff. So I will have to get those done first to not let people wait way too long. And then after that, we'll see. It really depends. Cause with all of this coronavirus stuff, I was really comfortable shipping stuff. Especially like high value stuff. So yeah, the answer is at the moment I need to first finish the ones that I owe to people before I even start thinking about what to do next.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I go, I've only done 2 remarks. One I did for one of their drawings they did on the tool board, and the other one I did just for fun, and then put it up for basically for bids online. But I've only done 2 for the Atlanta show. I've done 25 for
so about 20, yeah,
the 20, somewhere 20 and 25 for the Boston show. So. I really haven't decided yet. If you're interested in one, you can email markbrooksart@msn.com, and we can, Lisa can talk to you about possibly getting on a list to get one of these signed remarked Atlanta posters. I'm not taking any mail orders right now, meaning I'm not taking anything where someone can mail me their poster to be remarked. If you would like something like that done, you'll have to come see me at a convention, and even then, it'll depend on whether I'm doing them that weekend or not. But yeah, you can email me to find out. But it's probably a good time for Addie and I to mention that this coming week, I think we're going to do a live broadcast where very similar to what we're doing right now, where we're going to do tool remarks live. I think we're probably going to do, we're still working out the details, so, don't hold us to this, but I think we're going to do like an hour on Addie's page and then an hour on my page, and just basically have the camera over our posters and us just remarking them. Does that sound good to you, Addie?
That sounds great. Yeah, no, I mean, people can actually watch me do some, their remarks, because there are people waiting, like I said, for a few that I need to do, so they might actually tune in and watch me do theirs.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
That'd be really cool, and then we can maybe give you guys a little step by step of what we do, how we do it. I know Addie and I work very differently. Addie is working with acrylic and a paintbrush, and I'm working with acrylic enamel markers. So you probably get a good idea of the 2 different methods we're using to do what we do. I think it'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Travis Newman was asking how you guys met.
Well, the first time we met, Addie doesn't remember, but that was it was what, 10 years ago, Addie?
Longer ago, I think. But
yeah, actually,
I believe it because there's photo evidence of it.
There is. In fact, Lisa's going to get the photo right now. But it was at a Marvel party in San Diego. What's that?
I don't remember having that photo taken at all, but obviously I was there.
Here, look in the drawer, Lisa. Or look in the green vase on top. The green on top of the table, Lisa. Is it inside there? No. Okay, look in the 2 side tables. But yeah, so we met at the Marvel party very briefly, and for some reason I have a picture of it, so it's really funny. But then we actually didn't hang out until, what was that, Calgary, I believe?
It was either Calgary or Big Wow.
I think it was Calgary, because Big Wow was the first place you met Lisa, because I was at Calgary by myself.
Okay, then it was Calgary, yeah.
Yeah, and I hung out with you and Tamsin, and then a few months later, we all went to Big Wow in San Jose, and that's when you met Lisa.
Yeah, that was like, what, 5 years ago, 6 years ago?
Oh, actually, it was longer ago than that. It was like 7 or 8 years.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it's been a while, which means that San Diego was probably more like 12 or 13 years ago.
Yeah.
The scary thing is, I was at the Mexico show, and somebody brought over an X-Men cover that I remember maybe from like 4 or 5 years ago. It turns out I did it 10 years ago, and it really blew my mind. I was like, what happened 10 years ago? But yeah, okay.
No, it's crazy because I think the older we get, the faster time goes, and so everything feels shorter. I was looking at a memory popped up of all of us today in Seattle at Emerald City. Remember we went to go eat dinner at Trove with CB? That was 5 years ago.
Is that the one where Tamsin and I were napkins on our heads?
Yeah, so you have napkins on your head. Yeah.
That was the napkin midnight.
That was a good place.
That was awesome. But yeah, that was 5 years ago. I mean, it doesn't seem like that at all. So, but yeah, we met in Calgary because the guest list wasn't super extensive. So a lot of the comic pros there were just kind of hanging out together in the bar. And I think I was hanging out with Am and Allison, and
that's what we did. We were, I think if I remember, we had multiple dinners together. It was Adam and Allison, then you, and I don't remember who else was with us. It's when Adam ordered a sidecar, and they asked if he wanted to drink in a sidecar.
Which I wish he had just said yes to see how they had improvised that. Adam Hughes, we're talking about Adam and Allison. But yeah, we've been pretty close friends ever since then. It was pretty like fast friends, especially after Big Wow when all four of us ended up hanging out together.
Well, it helps that we all really like to eat good food, and so
yeah, it was.
We've had a lot of really good dinners and stuff together.
The thing is also it's at a convention, when you're away and it's just a bunch of strangers, it's really nice to have a familiar face and to have a bit of like it's almost like taking a bit of home with you when you meet someone and then you can experience things together. And
absolutely.
Then you become friends probably quicker than you would just in normal day-to-day life. So and especially we've ended up traveling all over the world, from obviously the States, Europe, Japan, China, Singapore.
It is kind of crazy that like we've obviously been to each other's houses, but for the amount of time we hang out together, it's always it's some other part of the world. It's like, hey, we'll meet you in Mexico, or hey, we'll meet you in in Japan. It's really cool to have travel friends, kind of like travel partners to go to see the world with. It makes it that much more exciting to visit new places.
I have a question for you from Rick. For you guys, is there any chance either of you two would consider doing step-by-step video tutorials at any point? Do you have time? The main question.
I mean, the thing is, I've done one recently for that video game. For the Iron Man virtual reality.
Yeah.
I think it must be online somewhere. Because they showed it at both San Diego and New York. It's just obviously I was paid to do it, and because it's such a big undertaking to film a step-by-step video, it's. So.
Well, that's one of the other problems with doing step-by-steps is that, and I think, Addie, you could probably say the same thing, is that our process takes a long time.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, it's not like just sitting down and doing a painting in 2 hours. It's sitting down and doing a painting in 10 days. And
right.
Having done the video for the Iron Man VR game, I had this giant camera clicking over my head for 3 days, 4 days straight, and it really stressed me out in the end because I set up my big DSLR and it was just refocusing, and I could just constantly hear it like whirring above my head, and then it would like click every whatever it was 5 seconds, and then every once in a while it would just stop clicking, and I'd be like, "What now?" And then I'd have to check it, and then suddenly it would restart, and really, it was a big undertaking.
Kind of nerve-wracking.
Yeah, that's what I mean, and I was being paid to do it, and I was still like, "Oh, I don't want to ever do this again." And to do it kind of like, as a bit of like a side project, it's a big job.
Well, I think that as far as doing like a full tutorial, like Addy was saying, that's very, very difficult. But I did a Facebook Live video. Was that Tuesday, Lisa?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where I spent an hour rendering a face and kind of going through the steps and talking about what markers I was using and how I was working with them and what I was doing. So I'd like to keep doing stuff like that. So it won't be so much of like, here's a big finished piece start to finish, but it'll be like, here's how I render this, or here's how I draw that, or here's how I address this. Or like Addie and I doing tool remarks, which are like, smaller drawings to kind of show you how we do those. I think that stuff like that would be a little more realistic, especially since doing Facebook Live videos like this are much easier than trying to set up some kind of a time lapse or something like that.
We had a question from somebody asking about what music you listen to, or what do you guys have on in the background while you're drawing and working?
You want me to go?
Yeah, go ahead.
I usually just play like the stuff that I listen to. A lot of obviously I play Tool all the time, but I really like Mogwai, and Mogwai is really good for like sweeping kind of cinematic type of soundscapes, I guess. I like a lot of kind of 80s and 90s electronic music, so I listen to New Order and Depeche Mode. And then, Tamsin, what else do I listen to?
Tool. Did you mention?
I did mention Tool. The last couple of days, I've been listening to Ghost, which I've never really like played before, but I really enjoy it. It's quite fun. But yeah, that's about it for me.
Mark, you want to tell everybody what you have on a constant loop every day while you're drawing?
Well, I do listen to podcasts a lot, but lately I've been playing The Office on loop. I think I've watched all 9 seasons. I've got to be on my 13th or 14th loop of it at this point. It's therapeutic to me at this point. I took a quiz the other day online. It was called the world's hardest office quiz, and I got 100%.
All right.
But I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to a lot of. I really like true crime podcasts. So I listen to a lot of a lot of murder stuff. We listen to music and stuff. I don't normally listen to music too much while I'm drawing. I usually listen to music when I go upstairs when Lisa's cooking dinner. We play music while she's cooking, and we'll talk and stuff. So, and a lot of that is we really like 80s and 90s new wave.
Broadway.
We like Broadway.
We've got Book of Mormon on a loop upstairs
We do.
right now.
But we of course we listen to Tool and stuff like that.
Rage. We've been listening
to
a
lot of Rage Against the Machine lately.
Yeah, Rage as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So but yeah, all kinds of stuff. It's just what I'm very in the mood for. But the stuff I've been working on lately has been really kind of intense mentally. So by playing The Office, which is something that I just know backwards and forwards, it's just kind of background noise. It's not something that's going to distract me from what I'm focusing on.
And
yeah.
Questions as well about who your favorite characters to draw are. Especially your favorite X-Men.
Favorite X-Men? Oh, Mark, what about you?
Oh, that's tough. My favorite X-Men is probably Rogue. I've always loved her since I was a kid because she's from the South, and I am too. Obviously, she was always just kind of this really tough chick, and I always thought she was just really, really amazing. So yeah, she's my favorite. Probably one of my favorites to draw. My favorite X-Men to draw, though, because he's just so much fun to draw, is Nightcrawler, just because of all the blacks. In his figure, and he's kind of like a Spider-Man-esque character in his contorted body when he flips around. I really enjoy drawing him a lot.
Yeah, I'm like the worst fan in the world. I don't have a favorite character to draw either. I usually, whatever the assignment is, I'll get obsessed with it, and then it'll be my favorite character while I'm doing that particular piece. But there are characters I enjoy less, but you know, I'm very happy. I kind of get into the if I'm drawing a really angry Wolverine, I really get into the angry Wolverine. If I'm drawing Colossus, I really get into the metal. If I'm drawing Storm, I really just don't have like a favorite. There are just some characters who are, I look at the design and I'm like, okay, this is very much of their time, and I struggle to make it fit my aesthetic, just because the design is so kind of retro. But usually, unless it's something specific that has to be retro, Marvel let me kind of do my own take on it. So, it's not usually a problem.
Well, that's a good question. What is a character that you find yourself grappling with? Like, no matter how many times you try to draw him, you always struggle. Do you have a character like that?
I mean, I would say almost every character. I feel like, oh, maybe I didn't get the, especially if it's someone I'm doing for the first time, or first or second time or whatever. I often end up thinking, oh, maybe I didn't get the essence of the character right, and I've been trying really hard lately, well, the last couple of years, to work on that kind of stuff and not kind of have one solution for all characters, but instead try to really consider each individually and try to give them a personality. And it's one of those things. Whenever you look at your old art, you find all kinds of different holes in it, and it's the same with characters. I'm like, I just didn't get quite that spark, which doesn't happen as much anymore, just because I've been allowing myself a lot more like thinking before I start on something. So, because I really hate doing art that I'm not happy with. And going back a few years, there were a lot more pieces that I would do that I wasn't happy with. So I promised myself, I'm really gonna slow down and like tackle him, hopefully, with a bit more thought. Well, I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very similar in the vein that, yeah, when I draw a character, even if I've drawn them 100 times, I'm trying to look for a new way to come at them and have a better understanding of the character. That being said, I have always grappled with Captain America. He, for some reason, and when it comes to DC, I feel the same way about Superman. I have a really hard time getting him to look the way I want him to look, because some characters will just kind of fall out of my pencil and they look the way I want them to look. But Captain America, no matter how many times I draw him, and I've drawn him dozens and dozens and dozens of times, and every time it's just like it's not quite there with what I want.
I know exactly what you mean, and for me, I've never worked for DC, but just when I think of Superman, I always think of Alex Ross, and to me, that is Superman. And now when I think of Captain America, I don't actually think of the movie, but I think of Ryan Meinerding's art for the movies, and to me that is like how I want Captain America. So I think I just, if I'm unsure of doing a character, I try to kind of think of what I think is the most defining. So like Women of X-Men, for instance, I always think of Olivier Coipel. Yeah, he's just
he draws great versions of them.
And so I try to kind of
like amazing 80s and 90s supermodels.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of I try to like not emulate the style, but emulate the spirit of what they're achieving. So I don't get it right. Often I don't get it right, but some stuff I think, well, I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I'm gonna look at what I think is like a really good version and kind of, like I said, emulate that spirit into what I do.
It's funny you mentioned Olivier Coipel because Olivier is his biggest influence, the guy that he kind of modeled his style after in the beginning. Obviously, not now, but like we all kind of model or emulate a lot of artists when we first break in. But uh, for Olivier, it was Mark Silvestri, which was also a huge influence on me when I was breaking in. And so while kind of what you're saying, where you're trying to emulate the spirit but not the style, that's Silvestri for me is someone that I don't think you can see Silvestri in my work necessarily, but the spirit of the characters, I'm trying to kind of emulate that energy that he brings.
Oh, I mean, Silvestri his ink style has been a really big. It's been a really big, not necessarily influence, but like an inspiration for me because I don't know if, like how many people are familiar with Sergio Topi and his ink style. To me, it's almost like Silvestri is like the superhero version of like that energy with the cross hatching or the ink that Sergio Topi would get. So looking at their work, I'm like, yeah, there's just so much kind of power behind it.
It's so funny. You can take these artists and you can look at them almost like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, because it's so funny that you're talking about Topi, and Topi was actually the biggest influence on Travis Charest for his style. So it's so funny that you can track these artists back over generations. Like I would consider you and I to be of the same generation career-wise in comics. Like we kind of broke in at the same time, around the same age. And I know that like now there's these new guys coming in like Pepe Larraz or Jorge Molina, guys like this that I think are like the next generation after us. So I think it's interesting to see where they get their inspirations from.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of artists that I am a big fan of seem to have a couple of like almost like source artists that they have been hugely influenced by. So almost everybody I'm a big fan of seems to have been influenced by Mobius. And I've been hugely influenced by Mobius, but the people that I really like that are currently working, like Jeff Darrow and Katsuya Terada, they have been hugely influenced by Mobius as well.
Frank Quitely.
So yeah, I mean, and Travis, obviously, I think Mobius has been an influence on him.
You could definitely see that, especially in his like Space Girl work.
Oh yeah,
very Mobius design wise, very Mobius inspired.
And Esad is a huge Mobius fan as well.
You can definitely see it, especially in his environmental work.
Yeah. And any questions we're missing? I keep seeing a lot of them coming through. But...
Yeah.
To interrupt you.
No, you can just.
You're both being asked if you plan to do interiors again anytime soon. Let's come up.
No.
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 Every time I think of interiors and how much I would like to do the interiors, I just remember the misery of spending 5 days a page for a year and a half, being broke and it just my style, the way I want to do stuff, unless I do it differently, and I think people might like it if I do it differently. Doing it the way I do my work, I mean, interiors is just unsustainable. 5 days a page is just not sustainable.
No, I'm with Addie.
You guys like sleeping.
I do.
Now.
I enjoy sleeping and eating and spending time with my family. I'm much in the same boat. Well, I don't paint my pages like Addie does. I end up putting way too much work in my pages when I do them. When I did Han Solo, I really enjoyed it, but it just about killed me. So I'm not. I think I'm more willing to do interior work than Addie is, but it would have to be the right project. It would have to be probably a short-term project, like an annual or something. I am doing a page for the Giant Size X-Men #1 recreation they're doing. I'm doing one page.
How many panels?
One panel. Full page for us. But that counts. It's an interior page. It
It
counts.
is. I know.
Oh, that means you get royalties.
That's true. I finally get royalties. Yeah, I don't know if you guys know this, but cover artists don't get royalties.
So I did the cover and I'm not getting royalties, but you did the page and you're gonna get a royalty.
I'm gonna get royalties. So suck it, Granov.
Tens of cents.
Tens of cents.
Like a real gym workout to you. A very pertinent question.
Yes. Did you hear that?
No, what was the question?
How has the lack of gym workouts affected me? Greatly. I have been, I think this isolation is the thing I'm struggling with the most. But I got those power towers or whatever they're called. So that and resistance bands, hopefully keeping on top of it. So we'll see. I'm meant to get some heavy weights next week. So hopefully it won't have affected me too much.
Your tower of power.
No, that's what they call it.
Yeah.
It's one of those like tower racks. You can do pull-ups, you can do push-ups, you can do leg raises, all kinds of stuff. So both Samson and I have been using it quite a lot. And luckily we also have a bunch of resistance bands. So I've been able to figure out ways how to do like weighted squats, but instead of the weights, actually the bands pulling me down and stuff like that. So
can't you incorporate the cats? You can use the cats as weights.
Cat bells?
They're too light. Too light. I'm gonna have to go next door and grab the children from our neighbor and like.
Come here, you stop running.
You can get some cardio in from chasing them too.
No, I have 2 buckets for washing the car, and I have considered just filling it up with water and because they're like 30 liter buckets, so that's like 30 kilos. So
you're doing like the Rocky workout, like when he's in Russia.
I'm just gonna go around the neighborhood chopping trees down, like going to
and running from the KGB.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Oh boy. All right. What other questions you got? There's got to be a lot more coming in, I assume.
Well, someone way earlier was asking about learning comic art. Like, are there classes you can take? What would you guys recommend for learning comic art?
I mean, there's a lot of colleges that offer comic book courses on storytelling. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of them. I think there are some good programs out there. But, those kind of things didn't exist when I was coming up. I don't think they really existed when you were in college either, right, Addie?
No.
So, my school, and be honest with you, it's much cheaper. My school was my comic shop. I would go and buy comics, and not only would I read them and really love them, for the story and for the art, I would study them religiously. Just, how they work, panel breakdowns, things like that. And then I would go to conventions and talk to other artists, talk to working professionals and get advice. Because, I don't know many artists going to conventions that aren't willing to give you a few minutes of their time to look at your artwork and give you some pointers and advice. I just think that, just like anything, if you want to know how to do comics, it's easy to learn. You just have to really want to know. And I think that's the biggest problem with a lot of people is that they think they want to do comics till they get down to the nitty gritty of how to do comics. And then like, oh, this is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. So, I think you have to really want it, and you can figure it out pretty easily.
I mean, the thing is also, it's not, it's not about, I think it's the wrong thing to think about, oh, I want to learn how to do comic art. It's technically the goal should be to learn to be good at doing art. Doing, being good at drawing, being able to draw many different things. That's not specific only to comics. That's, comics do happen to be probably the most rounded of all like commercial art disciplines, because you have to be decent at least at everything. You can't skip on being able to draw backgrounds. You can't skip on being able to draw vehicles. buildings, people, magical things, superheroic things, all of those different things. You really have to, be really well-rounded artist in order to do comic art. But it's because it's bringing all of these different disciplines into it. You don't need to specifically study just comic art. You can watch movies and try to figure out why they're paced a certain way, why they're framed a certain way. You kind of like start studying things from a more technical standpoint rather than just enjoying it for the entertainment. So, because I never studied comic art, I just studied drawing, and I drew on my own and tried to figure out better ways to do something. And then when you get a script, then you're like, okay, I need to fit 5 panels of this action on a page, and then you try to break it down and make it flow in the best way possible. And sure, you can go for specifically comic art courses to teach you that, but you can learn all of those things from just looking at other art and just getting good at art in general.
It's true. I mean, and there are a ton of really good books out there that you can find at most comic shops or booksellers or Amazon that, drawing comics the Marvel way, a book from the 80s is still a great book that'll teach you how to do, the actual art of comics. But Addie is right. I mean, knowing how to lay out a comic page and all this stuff doesn't matter if you don't know how to draw.
I mean, people might think that I'm a terrible comic artist, so take what I'm going to say with a pinch of salt anyway. But I've never looked at a single how to draw comic book.
Well, that's obvious.
Exactly. No, I mean, it's kind of like, when I do covers, because Marvel really like, iconic in your face covers, you try to kind of like, do the best job at in your face iconic cover. But then when I do like keyframes for movies, that doesn't work. They don't want to see just a character flying straight at you or something like that. They want to see something that looks like a movie scene. So you kind of have to, you adjust your approach to, from like character art to storytelling. So, I mean, I guess all I'm saying is that you just have to get good at doing art, and then you can apply it to anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would concur.
We've had a couple of questions about upcoming statues. Do you guys want to talk about projects related to your statue work?
Can you talk about yours, Addie?
Yeah, I mean, maybe not in specific detail, but I have a statue of my own design that's going to be, well, we'll see with this mess now, but it's scheduled for sometime next year, 2021, and it's just my own design. And then I have kind of like a couple of things that I can't really talk about with a couple of different companies, which are also kind of in like early stages, I guess. Nothing really since the She-Hulk and Iron Man came out from Sideshow. There's been nothing like to that level of finish yet that I could announce. So that's as far as like I can really talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat as Addie. The last statue they announced, which hasn't shipped yet, but still available for pre-order, is the Black Cat statue I did for Sideshow, which you can find on SideshowCollectibles.com right now.
And the fine art prints.
And Addie and I are both doing fine art prints through Sideshow. And so I think if you go to SideshowCollectibles.com and type in our names, I think some of our past statues are still available to purchase. And of course, you can, like I said, you can pre-order my Black Cat statue. And I think we might, don't hold me to this, I think we might both have a couple of lithographs that are available on the website as well that you can get.
You probably know better than I do.
Yeah, I know they just released a couple of mine, but I think some of yours may still be available if they haven't sold out yet. But it's possible they may have sold out by now.
Yeah.
But yeah,
there will be more coming out. But again, with all of this mess at the moment, and depending on how long it lasts, it's impossible to like predict when it might come out, when it might ship, any of that. So
Yeah, I think everything's having the same kind of issues because because a lot of these statues and action figures, they're all produced in China, and because of the issues we're having with obviously the coronavirus, and then there was also the issues they were having with the trade war prior to that. I think a lot of things are taking a little longer to finally come out. But they will be out eventually. It's just maybe it's take a little longer than we would like. You know, what else you got?
There's a couple of questions about covers. One is, how did you become exclusively to do covers? And then also, what was your first paid cover job?
I think Addie and I probably both became cover artists the same way. We were too slow at sequentials.
Well, I was a cover artist first. Well, for Marvel at least. And then they, gave me the Iron Man book, and I was very slow. They're like, okay, get back to cover. And I've done since Iron Man Extremis, which, insanely is 15 years ago. I mean, that's the crazy thing. It's 15 years ago. I started in 2004, and it came out in 2005. But anyway, since then I've just done some short stories and one issue of Captain America. But overall, I think both Marvel and I agree that my method of work is not entirely suited.
I mean, same for me. I think I'm a decent storyteller. I'm just not very fast at it. Luckily, when I came back to do Han Solo, because they were willing to give me the time to do it. They when I talked with them, when they offered it to me right away, they were like, "We want you to do Han Solo, and here's how much time you have to do the whole thing," And they stayed on top of me, and I think
still wasn't enough.
A couple of books did ship a couple of weeks late, but overall, I was able to decently keep the schedule. But yeah, they plus I think, Addie, you and I are in the same boat that our covers tend to sell. People when they see our covers on a book, the book tends to move. So I think that Marvel finds us better served when it comes to just selling a book. We're better served on the cover of the book than we are on the inside.
No, I mean it's one of those things that it's almost like a catch-22, where it's like, well, no, we want you to do this like really highly finished work, but you have to do it in 2 days, and it's like, well, it doesn't work that way. So at least with covers, because I'm like, as I was mentioning earlier, my goal is to do the best work that my goal is to avoid being embarrassed by my own work. And if I have to do pages in like 2 days a page, I know there will be a ton of things that I'm going to have to like cut corners, and there are some people I look at, like Essan, who is able to produce unbelievable work at quite like a high rate, and I'm like, it's just not. I don't have that kind of I don't have it in me to be able to do that.
Yeah,
the way I paint is almost like engineering rather than it doesn't just flow. It's like a puzzle that I'm having to kind of solve, and there's just no way for me to cut corners without them being really upset by what I have created.
Well, you and I have talked about this before, that Esad, he actually, I would call Esad a painter. Like he paints. But I think that what you and I do, even though we're working in different mediums, I think that what you and I do is more along the lines of illustration, which I think there's a big difference too.
Esad also, even when he just draws, he just draws rather than paints, and he's able to produce the work. I don't know how he feels about it himself. I'm sure that there's stuff that he's not happy with or whatever, but I look at it and I'm like, well, it is incredible.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
So yeah, and with some people, again, going back to Olivier, you look at it and it just looks so effortless, and it's so beautiful. And I know we're all our own like worst kind of critics. It's just that, for me to achieve something that I'm really happy with, I have to take my time with it.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I know the feeling. And honestly, since I left doing sequentials and started doing strictly cover work, I'll be honest, I'm much happier. I'm much happier with the amount of time I have to spend with my family. I'm much happier. Lisa's much happier. I'm much happier with my work overall.
Well, for me, with covers also is because I am always happier having short projects. And then, because even with the movie stuff, I'm the same, I consider each piece as a project of its own. So, but when you're doing pages, you really have to think of you have to think of the long game. And then when I'm, in month 6 of doing the same thing over and over and over, I almost start feeling really like constrained by, because when I'm doing covers, I can work on a cover and be like, oh, okay, I've discovered something new, so I'm going to try it on the next thing. While when I'm doing pages, I feel like I have to stay consistent to a style that I've set. Otherwise, it drifts away, and then issue 4 looks so different from issue 1. I don't know. That's just my kind of view on it.
No, I mean, I definitely feel that, because I think that being able to work on different projects and different characters and jump from book to book, I never find myself getting bored. Yep. And I know I keep going back to Han Solo, but that's my latest sequential that I did. It was a very different thing to be able to get up every day after day for 9 months and know exactly what I was going to be drawing. And it was the same thing that I drew yesterday, and the same thing I drew the day before. And when I've gotten so used to just jumping around from project to project, I suddenly had to focus on one thing for months at a time. And every day wasn't great.
Yeah.
There were plenty of days I'm just like, I do not want to draw the Millennium Falcon again.
No, I completely understand. Sorry, Tamsin, what were you going to say?
I was going to ask, just kind of leading on from this, do you prefer working digitally or traditionally, you two? And if you do like digital, what software do you use?
I mean, I prefer working traditionally, but I work both ways, and I've learned to enjoy both. So when I do concept art, especially, I work digitally, and I just work in Photoshop or on Procreate. Recently, I started working in Procreate on the iPad, but I still prefer Photoshop on my big tablet. And that's pretty much the only software I work in. But when I do my illustration work, I do it always traditionally. So it's kind of at the moment I'm a bit kind of half and half, probably because I'm doing more of the concept art at the moment. I'm probably currently maybe more a bit digitally. But yeah.
Yeah, my method is I pencil digitally, and sorry, I'm looking at my water. I pencil digitally and then print it out in non-photo blue, and then everything after that is done. The marker, the paint, the ink, everything is done traditionally from that point. But I pencil in a Photoshop on a Cintiq, very much like Addie does. In fact, you can see my Cintiq there on the other side. Yeah, they can't tell what it is.
That's exactly the same tablet I have.
Yeah.
So, you've been going for over an hour now. Do you want to keep going, or?
Yeah, we still have 10 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you guys ever consider doing movie posters?
Now illustrated movie posters are more of just like a curiosity. It's not really part of it, like the business anymore, because most of them are, photo comps, and from just what I've heard, also.
But it would be fun.
It would be fun, yeah. The
Oh yeah, I'd
problem,
love to do it. There's just no market for it right now, unless you're working for like Mondo or someone like that. I mean, I'd love to do a Mondo poster.
yeah, and that's what I mean. It's like, if you're doing that kind of like more specialty type of thing, yeah, definitely. It's just that if you're actually doing a like movie poster to be displayed at the movie theaters, to me it sounds like a lot more of a nightmare than a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just looking at Drew Struzan's experience on the posters that he did, like for Hellboy and Indiana Jones and stuff, where he had his art either altered or actually posters entirely cancelled after they were painted because there are various contractual obligations that with actors and likenesses and how big a person can be on a poster and all of that stuff.
Yeah,
So,
a lot goes into it, and when it comes to areas of art, it seems like movie poster artwork is least respected. Is not the word I'm looking for, but it's almost like it's such a churn.
No, I mean, the answer for me is like, yes, I would have loved to have done movie posters in the 80s, but today, probably not.
Yeah, I concur. I agree. Sorry, Lulu has joined me.
Yay.
Hey, sweetie.
Lulu.
Look, say hi. You say hi? All right, you have no questions?
Somebody's asking about the diamond issue since they are shutting down, and what do you guys think about that?
I got asked this the other day when I went live. I really don't know what to think of it right now because I don't know how this is all going to play out or how long this is going to last. I saw this morning, I was reading some articles that it looks like DC is looking for other ways to ship their comics to comic shops, and I think Marvel may be following suit with that as well. I don't know what that really means. I mean, I know that Addie and I have worked at Marvel for a long time, but it may be hard to believe, but Addie and I aren't told most of the stuff that's going on. We normally find out about it a lot of times when everyone else does.
I mean, the
through
thing
news
is,
sites.
the editors also won't really necessarily know. It's those are decisions made on a different kind of, not even different level, but in a different area of the business to what we're involved in. So it doesn't really. I mean, this can't last forever either. So
Right.
in the UK, comic stores, technically, most of them seem to be completely closed anyway. So, I think we just need to kind of button down and get through it, and then pick up when things kind of blow over. Because it's not something that I'm losing sleep over, the whole like diamond thing.
I will say this. Addie and I have been talking about this, privately when we just do our regular Skype sessions. I'm not worried about myself, and I know Addie has said he's not really worried about himself. We're okay. We have plenty of work on our plate. We can weather this. What I'm worried about more than anything is I'm worried about the retailers. Because a lot of them, they do run on shoestring budgets. They really are a week-to-week business, and they count on their subscribers to come in and pick up their comics. So I would plead for anybody that's watching, please, you can go to comicshoplocator.com on Google. You can find a local shop close to you. Contact that shop. I know a lot of shops are closed to customers coming inside their shop, but they're doing curbside pickup. So you can please use Comic Shop Locator, contact a store close to you, maybe request some comics. If you're not sure what you want, maybe you could say, I'm really into this, I'm really into that, and they can recommend something for you. And maybe you can go by and grab a few books and help support your local retailer, because I do have a feeling that of everybody that this is going to affect, the comic publishers, the retailers, and the artists, the retailers are going to be the biggest effect, the most likely affected by all this in a negative way. So I'd love for you guys to do whatever you can to help support them, even if it's going by there and spending $5 or $10. I know it would mean the world to them, and so as a personal favor to me, I'd really appreciate that. All right.
Yeah, the situation in the US is quite different to the situation here, so it's really difficult for me to, know like what to recommend there. Because in the UK, like I said, most stores seem to be just completely, like the one we use in Leeds is just closed until further notice. So
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think that the UK also they're doing a better job, it seems, of keeping the businesses there compensated during this time, right?
in theory, it seems so. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So yeah, we don't have, at least at this present time, we don't have that kind of safety net for a lot of especially our small mom and pop businesses. Yeah, I am worried about them. I hope I hope they can weather this. What else, Lisa? I think we've got a few minutes left. We want to stick to an hour, right, Addie?
Whatever.
Okay. Do you have any more questions, Lisa?
Just a couple of questions. Someone is asking for you both. Have you ever thought of using a more synthetic and less detailed style?
More synthetic? I don't understand the synthetic part. Yeah. No. What about you, Addie? No.
No.
Oh, I always find ways to make my life more and more difficult. So.
Right.
Yeah, I don't actually think anybody who I'm working for at the moment would respond well if I suddenly started sending in, like Garfield style art.
Like
Right.
create your own project, do something completely, outside of the usual sort of Marvel Star Wars universes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm already doing it, and actually, like a lot of the tool stuff I've done, it kind of forms like a part of a visual like world that is completely apart from. It's my own, and it kind of crosses over with tool, but then there are elements that also are just entirely my own. So definitely, but not really. I'm not really all that concerned with like doing it as a specific type of format, so like a comic or I'm kind of just at the moment just building like a visual world, basically a style, rather than specific project. So yeah, I mean, when I have time, I'd love to do more of it. And if I'm out of work because of coronavirus, I guess that's all I'll do. So we'll see.
No, I mean that's what I've been using the tool posters for as well, is being able to stretch out and do something different than the normal superhero artwork I do, and do something a little more. I really do like that kind of dark and creepy aspect of my artwork when I get the chance to do it, but I don't get the chance very often. So yeah, it's fun when the opportunity arises. What else, babe?
I mean, is that it?
There were more. There was one I just saw. Hang on a minute. Where did it go? Maybe Lisa can see if there's one. There's definitely a few. There's so many.
Hurry, our viewers are bailing.
Is there a favorite? Is there a favorite comic book right now that you guys are really into?
I haven't been to the comic shop in a long time.
We just bought a whole bunch.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's right. Lisa went to the comic shop, and that's funny. I just said, "Let's go to your comic shop," and I said, "We haven't gone in a long time." Lisa did go this week.
Bought a lot of comics.
She did buy a lot of comics. I haven't read it yet, but I'm really excited to read the Hickman X-Men run that's going on that Lanil Yu is drawing. So I'm hoping in the next week I have time to sit down and read the back issues that I haven't gotten to read yet. But that's about it. I've been really into X-Men lately, mostly because I've been doing a lot of X-Men artwork. So, and I really like what Hickman's doing with the HOX run. It was really cool.
How did you guys end up working on the tool poster campaigns?
Well, did you hear that?
I did. That's why I'm pointing at you.
I mean, Adam and I have been friends for a while, and when I think when he got tired of doing the posters himself, he asked me if I wanted to do some art, and then I did some posters for them over the last like whatever it is, 4 or 5 or 6 years. And then for this like Fear Inoculum tour, Adam decided he would really like to kind of do almost like a curate his own like moving gallery exhibit and invite a lot of the artists that he likes. And it just kind of like grew from there. And, so because of kind of his connection with me and my connection with like a couple of my friends, so Mark and Esad joined in, and Adam knows both Mark and Esad already. And then from on the other side, like some artists that Adam has followed for a long time, and then some artists that Corinne, Adam's wife, is friends with. So it's kind of like it just kind of grew to, so it really is like an eclectic moving art exhibit.
It's so funny too. I didn't expect it to happen, or I didn't know it would happen. But I love that by them bringing in all these different artists to do these posters, it's created this incredible collector mentality with the Tool fans. Picking their favorite ones. You have completists that want to get all of them. Or if like for instance, if you do 2 posters, they want to make sure they get both posters from your run. It's really, it's almost like trading cards, much more expensive trading cards. But I love the community it's created. I think it's really cool.
I don't know. Some trading cards can be very expensive.
Well, that's true. But this is a case where every trading card is very expensive. Yeah. But I saw somebody, and I didn't realize they had made so many of them. The I can't remember the name of the piece you did, but it's the bug girl in profile.
Yeah.
I never realized they did as many posters of that with different foil treatments until a guy put a video up on one of the tool boards. He had finally gotten all of them. And there's like 15 of them, right? Or 12 or 15?
The entire European tour last year was different variations of that poster.
That was crazy.
Actually, I don't know if it's the same guy, but a friend came up in Mexico and he had all of them. And I signed every single one of them. I'm only sad because it was kind of it was a bit of a weird con because of the coronavirus kind of thing, but also just kind of getting all of the posters out would have been a nightmare. But I'm really sad that we didn't have like space to kind of put them all out to take a photo with all of them.
That would have been cool.
Because I don't have them actually. Adam is meant to have them for me, but I don't actually have those European posters myself.
Yeah, you should be getting maybe this summer, right? Maybe if everything works out okay.
Yeah, maybe. There's only so many posters you can have.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, for me. Obviously, but
yeah.
It's Ben who's on the chat. He's actually on live, and he's the one who has all the posters.
Oh, Ben. Yeah. Cool.
Very nice.
Oh, he's watching it.
Yeah.
Hey, Ben.
Remind him again. You'll do another one specific to tool remarks, and you can have a lot of people. There's a lot of tool questions. So
that's true. Yeah. Guys. I realize there's probably a lot of tool fans watching right now. Just to reiterate something we talked about earlier. Later this week, probably Wednesday or Thursday, I would think, Addie. We're going to do a. Is that we're going to go live and do live tool remarks. So even though the camera right now is on Addie and I, we're actually going to do a live video the same way we're doing it right now, but we'll have the camera on the poster and we'll actually be rendering remarks on the poster live. And we'll probably do an hour on Addie's page and an hour on my page in this same format. So probably be another chance if you guys have other questions, especially involving tools. There seems to be a lot of tool questions. Would be a good time to come in and ask.
Yeah, no, I'm planning. I have if new people have tuned in, but I have a few remarks that that I owe. A couple of them are actually the big ones with the horns on the Brooklyn posters, so I might be doing one of those, and then I think I need to do a couple of the Nashville poster ones as well. So
and I'll probably do at least one or two, and at least one of them will probably offer as a as one of the lottery giveaways on the tool merchandise board. And so I'm going to talk to Joanna and Jason about that, and so hopefully I'd say Joanna and Jason will probably share the live broadcast onto the tool page when we go live as well. So. Hopefully you'll be around to see it. And if for some reason you're at work, you're busy, whatever, the live cast will be up later so you can watch it later on.
Yeah, I was meant to be drawing while we were doing this. And as you can tell, I've quite a lot.
I was gonna say I meant to be working on Jean Grey and it never actually happened. So, but yeah, we're gonna do more drawing demos either together or separately. I think Lisa and I are also gonna do a demo where I'm gonna do a charity piece that we're gonna do. We're trying to figure out a way to do it so you guys can donate money and maybe we can do like a drawing or a raffle for it. So we're gonna figure that out, and I think Addie has something along the lines planned as well.
Yeah, no, I'll be doing like a drawing a week at least to raise money for the people who have been affected by losing income because of this. So, Tamsin, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, Dave has a question for both, which is there a single piece or a time that pushed either of you guys to see the most noticeable growth in art, or something that caused you to read your art totally differently?
I mean, for me, there are stages, like every so often I kind of like reach this like almost plateau, and I become really unhappy with what I'm doing, and then that builds towards like a breakthrough, and then I do a piece that it's almost like my subconscious is moved ahead of my conscience, and then my kind of like ability and my conscience have to kind of like catch up with whatever it is that I've become unhappy with. And how long ago now was it? Was it 2 or 3 years ago? I did the Daredevil Electra piece, and I kind of see that as a real like watershed moment for what I'm doing now. It kind of like everything kind of like started with that piece. With like the more kind of recent growth, I think. So I would really see that as like like where I was like, oh, I'm getting something here.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was working in nothing but pen and ink, and I was playing around with markers in my free time. And when I started doing X-Men Legacy, I did a cover. It was my first X-Men Legacy cover, and it was Rogue. And you see her from the forehead down to just below her knees, and she's kind of looks defeated and all beaten up, and her costume's all ripped, and it's just a really center character rendering of her that it came out exactly like I hoped it would, and it really changed the way I started addressing my comic art. I started wanting to do more fully rendered stuff, coloring my own work, and then. Probably my watershed moment was the Secret Empire covers, because I was doing the marker renderings on those, and about halfway through I started rendering in then full color, and it really just it struck me like you said, it's kind of a watershed moment for me. It opened up my eyes, and I've just been trying to get better and better ever since. I can always tell when I'm about to have a breakthrough. It's when I start getting really bored with what I'm doing. And it's kind of a miserable feeling, because it's like, I'm doing the same thing over and over again. But I know it means I'm about to have a breakthrough.
Yep.
And you're just kind of waiting for it to happen, and you just keep playing around and experimenting.
I think it's really important, and I think a lot of people kind of think like, oh, it's like a creative block. But just having been doing this, having been at this for a very long time, I've learned to recognize it as actually almost like a prelude to something good happening. So I get really like upset about something that I'm not, I can't get it or whatever. But then I kind of remind myself, oh, I know this feeling. I've gone through this before, so I'm gonna stick with it, and it's gonna kind of like hopefully, and it does every time.
Yeah.
So, and even that Daredevil Electric piece, now when I look back at it, there are things that I'm like, oh, I've moved on from there. It's just that really, looking at it, the jump between like what came before and what came after was a real big. But there were steps throughout my career, so that's not that. That's more like the most recent one. But there are steps throughout my career of different pieces that suddenly something clicked. And maybe it's not even a single piece. It might be like 2 or 3, but something has like clicked, and it's kind of like suddenly figuring out specular highlights.
Right.
It blew my mind, because I was like, oh wait, specular highlights are independent of the and then I was like, whoa, and from that point on, and I can see it in my art. I can see it in Iron Man. I can see Iron Man prior to that, and then suddenly Iron Man after I figured out how specular highlights work. And specular highlights for me is a funny one, because I always, when you talk to other artists, and it's almost like, like in Star Trek, it's like pre-warp civilization and after-warp civilization. And it's like with specular highlights, people are either like pre-understanding them, but you can't like explain it to them. They have to almost like figure it out. And then it's like, okay, now you're accepted into the Federation.
I love thinking right now how many people are Googling specular highlights.
For me, as far as like light and shadow goes and stuff, I think specular highlights was like the higher, for me. I don't know for other people. Some people might be just like, oh, well, I get it, whatever.
Yeah.
But for me, there was a real moment where I was like, whoa, now I get it. And actually, I mean, I can show people. So when I do metallic, I always have this spoon on my table. And this spoon has done so much for my art, because whenever I'm struggling with highlights, specular highlights, whatever, I just look at the spoon, and it has every surface I need.
Yeah.
I just turn it toward my light, and it kind of informs me what I need to do. So a lot of
everyone's going to have a spoon on their drawing table now.
Every Iron Man has been influenced hugely by this spoon. So when you watch any of the Iron Man movies, think of this spoon, and it's a cheap IKEA spoon.
But just remember, guys, the secret: there is no spoon.
Yes, there definitely is a spoon.
What else? Are we good? Yeah, I probably should wrap it up now. Yeah. All right. All right. So we're going to be back on Wednesday or Thursday to do an art demonstration for you guys. We'll probably put up an announcement. What do you say, Addy? Probably Tuesday.
Sure. Whatever. Yeah. Sounds good.
Give you guys an idea what we're going to do, and then we'll, maybe I'll talk about how I'm going to release my poster out to the public. For purchase or to enter the lottery for it. I'll talk to Joanna and Jason this week about that. And and then we'll answer any of your questions. Tour related, nice. Tour related, comic related, friendship related, whatever. But yeah, thank you guys. What?
Monkey face.
Oh, sorry. Oh, that's probably got he's on a delay, isn't he? Yeah. So thank you guys for tuning in. And I hope it was as entertaining for you guys as it was for us. It's a lot of fun. Had a really good time with this.
Yeah. Both.
So and Addy, I think you're the one that has to end the video since you're the host.
Oh no, I'm just going to leave it on all night.
Okay.
Thank you guys. Bye, Addy Tamsin. Love you.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Bye. How do I end this?
This is your life now, Addy.
Forever.